Africa, a continent bursting with life, a tapestry of languages, cultures, and traditions. Before the slave trade, Africa was a land of empires and kingdoms, from the bustling markets of Timbuktu to the Great Zimbabwe. Slavery existed in Africa before the arrival of Arabs and Europeans. It was vastly different from the chattel slavery of the transatlantic trade. The arrival of Arab traders in East Africa brought with it a new religion, Islam, and a new form of slavery. While the Islamic world had existing slave trade networks, the African continent, with its vast populations and accessible routes, became a prime target. The Arabs, driven by profit and a belief in their own superiority, began to view Africans as commodities. The Quran, while condemning the enslavement of fellow Muslims, allowed for the enslavement of non-believers. This created a dangerous loophole, one that would be ruthlessly exploited. African slaves, particularly women and children, were highly sought after in the Arab world. They were forced to work as domestic servants, laborers, soldiers, and even concubines. The journey across the Sahara Desert, known as the trans-Saharan slave trade, was brutal, with countless dying from thirst, disease, or exhaustion. If the Arab slave trade was a serpent, the transatlantic slave trade was a dragon, its fiery breath scorching the African continent for centuries. The arrival of European powers in the 15th century, initially welcomed as traders, soon morphed into something far more sinister. The discovery of the Americas by Europeans created a new demand for labor, a demand that would be met by the forced transportation of millions of Africans across the Atlantic. Sugar plantations, tobacco fields, and mines in the Americas became insatiable beasts, their hunger for profit fueled by the blood and sweat of enslaved Africans. European powers, initially Portugal and Spain, established trading posts along the African coast, offering manufactured goods, weapons, and alcohol in exchange for human beings. This marked the beginning of a triangular trade: goods from Europe to Africa, slaves from Africa to the Americas, and raw materials from the Americas back to Europe. Section 4. The mechanics of evil: lies, greed, and betrayal. The transatlantic slave trade was not simply a matter of Europeans arriving on African shores and forcing people onto ships. It was a complex and insidious system built on lies, greed, and the willing participation of some African leaders. European traders, unable to venture deep into the African interior due to disease and resistance, relied on African intermediaries to supply them with slaves. This led to increased warfare between African kingdoms, with those seeking power and profit all too willing to trade their own people for guns and goods. The slave trade became a self-perpetuating cycle of violence and greed. African kingdoms, armed with European weapons, would raid neighboring villages and capture their inhabitants, selling them to waiting slave traders. This fueled further conflict, destabilized societies, and eroded trust between communities. Section 5. The price of silence: Collaborators and Kings. The transatlantic slave trade could not have flourished without the active participation of some African leaders. These collaborators, motivated by greed, power, or a misguided belief that they were protecting their own people, played a crucial role in perpetuating this horrific system. Kings and chiefs, eager to secure their own positions and gain an advantage over their rivals, would trade captives of war, criminals, or even their own subjects for European goods. This betrayal of trust had a devastating impact on African societies, sowing distrust and fueling further conflict. While it is important to acknowledge the role of African collaborators, it's equally crucial to understand the impossible choices they faced. Refusal to cooperate with European traders often meant facing the wrath of their superior firepower or becoming a target themselves. Section 6. The Unhealing Wound: a legacy of pain and resilience. The transatlantic slave trade was a cataclysmic rupture, the effects of which continue to reverberate today. The forced removal of millions of Africans decimated populations and tore apart families and communities. The psychological trauma, dehumanization, and brutality left an unhealing wound on the soul of the continent. The legacy of this trauma is seen in economic disparities and social inequalities. Yet, the spirit of resistance never died. From shipboard revolts to armed rebellions, Africans fought back. The Haitian Revolution, the most successful slave revolt in history, stands as a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refused to be broken. It is a story of resilience, courage, and the enduring power of the human spirit. A story that demands to be told, remembered, and learned from. The spirit of Igbo landing. The Igbo landing is a historic site in Georgia, USA, where a group of Igbo people, captured and sold into slavery, chose to drown themselves rather than submit to bondage. This act of defiance and ultimate sacrifice is a powerful symbol of the relentless fight for freedom and dignity. Though faced with insurmountable odds, the Igbo captives took control of their fate in a final, tragic act of resistance. Their choice to embrace death over enslavement is a poignant reminder of the unyielding human spirit. The echoes of their courage resonate through history, challenging us to remember and honor their sacrifice. The story of Igbo landing is not just a tale of despair, but one of profound bravery and the unbreakable desire for liberty. It serves as an enduring beacon of hope and resilience, reminding us that the fight for justice and equality is far from over. The legacy of the Igbo landing continues to inspire and empower, a testament to the strength and dignity of those who stood against oppression, no matter the cost. As we reflect on this powerful chapter of history, let us carry forward the spirit of the Igbo people, honoring their memory by striving for a world where freedom and dignity are the birthrights of all. To learn more, watch the Igbo landing story video displayed on our YouTube card. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insightful content.